Hey y'all, welcome back. A to Z hair cutting. We're moving on, keep cutting more and more and more and giving you the whys. Biggest thing here, we're not fancy. This is so simple. But if there's any questions about hair cutting, these classes are going to help you answer them. These classes are meant to do that, plus the fact of showing you how to cut. Diagramming is a big factor because you're taking notes on it. Unless you do this all the time, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I don't even section anymore. I just cut because I truly know where I'm at on that head form. That's where I want you to be. Now, we did the 180, in other words, straight up, if you recall, and this one was side to side. But when we came along the sides, we did it vertically. What I want you to see on this is no matter what I do, because of the strength in numbers, all the hair being held up, strength in numbers, not sectioned, it's going to move in that direction. It's going to go back nice. However, when we did it vertically on these sides, it tends to pop out a bit. In other words, more movement. You really can't see it as good as I'd love you to see it, but once you do it on your own mannequin or on a person, you'll see that when they say, I want it choppy, I want to be able to see all those little peaky ends. Vertical is the best way to do it. If they wanted to go back, side to side is the best way to do it. On this one, we did it front to back. And remember, side to side to the frontal or fringe area. Front to back to the frontal or fringe area. This is a weak line coming vertically, but a strong line there so it stays back. See that? This is a weak line. However, I can try and get this to pop up, and it's not going to because it was done horizontally here. Strength in numbers again. However, front to back in this area above the parietal line, it tells me what it's going to do. You'd have to use a texture shear to get it to go back. I'm going to be teaching you some of those things later when we get into men's hair cutting, because that has a lot to do with using a texture shear. There's certain things that you do with it, even on fine hair, by the way. A lot of people think, oh no, my hair's too skinny, I don't have a lot of hair. Can't do that. Yes, you can, if you do it correctly to get results. All right, so anyways, I wanted you to see this, that when we do this front to back, all those little lines create a weakness. In other words, each one of these hairs sections was separated. Each one of these were all brought to one. So, but horizontal here, and it does this for you. And you can alternate it if you want, but it's knowing what happens up above the parietal line and what you need to do below it. If they wanted to cup under, horizontal. If they wanted to flip out choppy, vertical, below the parietal line. Above the parietal line, if they wanted to go back, side to side. If they want to have a side bang that really does fall down, and you can see that, front to back. Those are the clues about hair cutting. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to do 3 haircuts today. And I'm going to do it on a blonde mannequin, because, and it's the only blonde mannequin I have right now, because it's hard to see on the darker hair. So the first cut we're going to do is the front, and this is also, it's a bang trim. It is face framing, all done here at the frontal fringe area, the triangular subsection that we're going to take, and everything is going to come to it. That becomes bang trim or face framing. And you can see she's got a slight face framing here, but we're going to increase that. In other words, face framing means layered on the sides. That's what they want when they wanted to frame their face. They want it shorter to longer. However, one thing I want you to notice is it's pretty long on the sides, all right? So later on, we're going to be taking that off. That's going to be a couple haircuts after this. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to do this haircut first. Frontal fringe. And it is a single spot layered haircut. When somebody says, you know, this is kind of driving me crazy, I want to keep my length, I want it a little bit face framing, and they might say layers in the front is what they're going to call it. So I'm going to subsection it then, right at the frontal fringe area. I'm going to only section that out. Now let me tell you, all of this hair, I'm going to do two things. When you're doing a bang trim, you don't want to get the whole thing. You don't want to get all of it. Another thing about a bang trim, you don't want to take it in this form. You don't want to take it straight across because you end up with these shorter hairs that are going to drive you crazy. You have to take it into a pie shaping. In other words, the exact frontal fringe area. And you're also not going to, I'm just going to kind of push this back a little bit, make sure I got it. All right. The one thing that you have to be careful of, this is a rounded surface. If I take my shear and cut it straight across, I'm going to have Dora bangs. I'm going to show you, it's a horizontal cut. All right, so I'm going to bring it out. And actually I'm going to stand this way because I want you to see it. So I'm going to bring it out, and you always measure off where you want it, by the way. You're always asking me, where do you want it to land? And if they say they want it to land at the eyebrow, you take it to the bridge of the nose. If they say that they want it to land at the bridge of the nose, you take it to the tip of the nose. It's always better to cut a little longer and take it up a little bit more. The thing about cutting it horizontally, and you can see that this is definitely the frontal fringe area. I'm going to take it, I'm going to bring it out horizontally. I'm going to just take off an inch because I want you to see, and this time the extended position. Do you see that? You will be using that. Primary, secondary, extended. So those things, and I know my shear was a little off, but I'm just showing it to you. All right, so I'm using the extended position, making sure, and never cutting below the second knuckle. Always you just crawl over into it, all right? I mean beyond the second knuckle. Okay, this is what I want you to see. Whoop, don't fall down, Gertrude. Okay, you see how heavy that is? That's going to rest really heavy. And if they have a lot of hair, if they've got really fine hair, possibly you could do that. But if they have a lot of hair, now, one thing you could do to kind of cup around the face, now this time I just took it straight across, right, from where it grew. But let's say I wanted to cup around the face a bit. All right, so I'm going to bring it to the center. And what a lot of people do is they give it a little bit of a twist. You don't necessarily have to do that because you'll always end up with some little ends. Now, do you see how I brought everything right to the very center? I'm going to take off a little bit more. Again, using the extended position. And now you can see it cups around the face a bit, but it's still heavy. So, how do we get rid of this heaviness? You see this center point here. You're going to bring it straight up. Now, I want to show you something else about this. See how it fights going over? See how it fights? It's going to give me some problems going over. It keeps wanting to come back. And that's because straight the numbers. All right, we cut all of that horizontally, and it's saying, I'm not going to do this. Now, will it go back? Yes, it will. Amazing, isn't it? So, and that's just exactly like the side to side. Now, I'm going to take it. I want to lighten this. I don't like it so heavy. So I'm going to take it, this time, using kind of it's just upward, but it's still secondary position, pointed up. All right, I'm taking it right to the center nose, and my guide is that very last haircut right there. But I want you to see, let me bring this hair over. I want you to see how nicely, and one thing I want to show you is, I don't think you can see it right now, but I'm going to turn her. What I want you to see in this cut, that area closest to the apex is a straight line coming out. The parietal line to parietal line come to the center, but they are straight coming out. In other words, the apex isn't down and this isn't up. It's all a perfectly straight vertical line being cut. And you'll see this also cups the face, but it lightens it and gives it a little bit more of a motion. Look at how that comes up. I couldn't do that when I was cutting it straight across. Can I make it lay down now? No. See that? It's fighting me. It's not going to go back because I did it vertically. There is your why on that. All right? Now, if I want a face frame, then what I would do is I would subsection off the temporal area, and I would bring that to that exact same spot. Remember, it's going to work the same way when we're looking at the natural fall. Anything above the parietal line is going to be the natural fall. Do you see that? Okay, so I'm going to bring that up. You see that coming up? Again, see the movement. See it jump out. All right? Now the other side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it horizontally for you to see the difference, where the other side will lay down. Again, I'm going to bring it up, and I'm kind of cutting it below that line. I'm not taking it all the way up to it, but basically in the same area. But you'll see it jump and kind of scatter a bit because we're cutting it vertically. Again, you can still see that movement. I'm going to take it all the way back, right behind the ear where I sectioned it off. I'm not going to bring the back forward to it. Because remember, all she wants is face framing. So see the movement there. See all of that scatter. I can try and comb it down and it still pops out on me. All right? Now this is the back. So don't worry about that. That's going back into the nape line. Okay, so this side, I'm going to take it and cut it horizontally to blend with it. Now it's going to be at a slight angle because remember, we are at a slight angle. All right? This has been cut to cup around the face. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to bring it up. And I'm going to cut it at an angle, but I'm cutting it horizontally. I hope you can see that. Now, watch that cup under right away. Because I did it horizontally, not vertically. These are the whys in hair cutting. Again, I'm staying right at, let me turn it around, right at mid-nose right there, or mid-eyebrows. I'm taking it and then I'm turning it so that it is cut horizontally, but yet at an angle, because remember, she cups under. It's not a straight line up and down, it's a slight angle. Oops, hold it. Make sure that I take her and cut her horizontally. That cups under, this comes out. So those are the variables. What do you want? If they want it to cup under and they want to have control where it's not all flippy out, you're going to cut it in that form. You see, that just stays down. Now I'm going to scatter it. No problems. Stays down. This, I scatter it, jumps right out, try and comb it, jumps right out again. All right, so that is your face framing. That is your bang trim. Now let's say we don't want that heavier bang. Then come down a little lower. You still want to take it to the parietal line, but this point can come down lower. It doesn't have to be all the way to the apex. Just depends on how much hair they've got and what is it that they want. So now you can see there's movement here, and it lays down under there. So that's the two differences in cutting. I hope you can see this with the blonde hair a little more. Now what we're going to do on top is our next kind of layered haircut. Everything is going to come to the center. We're going to draw everything to that center apex, and we're going to cut it front to back. I am going to, at first, for you to see what it does when we cut it side to side. If I take it and cut it side to side at that point, we will have a problem because you'll be able to see that hard line. And that becomes a problem with it. So I'm still here at the parietal line. I'm cutting only at the apex. Put in that spray. Cutting only at the apex. Now again, these terms, if you have not watched our introduction video, you're not going to understand these terms. You're going to wonder, what's the apex? What is she talking about parietal line? What is that? Okay, well, you need to watch our introduction video. This is a stationary guide up to the center apex. In other words, the very center of the top of the head is the apex. I'm going to take this as a guide. I'm going to give it a little bit of length because I'm going to cut it, and I'm bringing everything to the apex. That's pretty thick right there. So I'm bringing everything to the apex, leaving it a little bit longer than that. But what I want you to see what happens. Everything to the center apex. Let me make sure that I don't have too much hair right there. But do you see where it's traveling back? See, I know where the center apex is at. That's the highest part of the head. I'm bringing everything to the center to a point. I'm going to cut secondary position straight across. All right, I'm going to now bring the next section to that point. Same point, not different. But I want you to see what kind of a line it creates when we bring everything almost like a ponytail. And again, to the center apex. And this mannequin has been chemically treated, so it's a little tangly. I mean, the other ones have too, but this is just a little bit difference on the types of mannequins that you get. Again, drawing that hair from the vertex to the center apex and cutting it across, side to side. But I want you to see the movement, see the choppiness, and it doesn't stop. All right, now I can then take the rest of it and bring it up and cut it at the center apex, but I would run out by the time I got to the lower ridge. So there's your movement on it. The sad thing about doing these three cuts right now is I can't blow dry them and show you the results, but I'm showing you how to do them. All right, so that's got a lot of movement to it, going side to side. Now we're going to take one sharp line, again, bringing it to the center. Pick everything up. Pick everything up right here. And we're bringing it to the center apex. This time cutting it front to back. What this is going to do, it's actually going to create volume and less movement. Surprisingly enough. The one thing I will share with you, if you have somebody with wavy hair and they don't like their waves, look at the volume. Did it stand up when I was doing it with the other? No. This is strength in numbers. Bring that together, cut it straight across at the center apex. But look at the volume. It's standing up. Surprisingly enough, it lays down. But if you want volume, that's how you're going to cut it. If you want volume, that's how you're going to use your texture shear. With your texture shear, you're going to hold it in the same position. This is your first kind of class on your texture shear. You're going to take it at the very center apex. Sorry, I thought I put my phone away. Let me hang this up. Unknown caller. Sorry. It happens, doesn't it? All right, so I'm going to bring it to the center, and I want you to see how now, I'm not doing it on the other side, just about 1.5 inches away from the scalp, one cut, that's all. The comb of the texture shear directs the hair. I wanted to direct it up. Now, see how that's standing up now? It's underneath, but now it's standing up as opposed to falling down. So these are little tricks about hair cutting as far as knowing what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. All right? So, and you can still see there's volume right there where I use the texture shear. So sometimes people say, well, I kind of want it to stand up. Be careful about the texture shear. Now remember, this removes hair. So you don't want to do more than one clip on it until you become really familiar with it. Okay, so our next cut, layered cut, is going to be done at the crown. This time I'm going to drop this a little bit because we're going to do the same thing that we did at the frontal area, only we're going to do it at the crown. So we're going to shape out our crown area, and we're going to first do it horizontally. How's everybody doing? I hope that you diagram this, because see, now we've done this, brought everything forward, and I showed you about the sides on what happens there. We've done the top, side to side, front to back. Now we're going to do the crown the same way. I'm only going to do the crown area. I can bring this up if time allows. If not, know that the result of that choice. All right, I am going to be using my previously cut hair as a guide. So I'm just taking a section off of that, and I'm bringing everything up just like a ponytail. Now, what does this remind you of? What does this remind you of? Where do you think that hair is going to be longer? In looking at this cut, there is a cut similar to this. We didn't hold it up here, but what is that cut? It's the A-line. Remember, we brought everything over. The shortest point is right here, and we did it at the nape. We're only doing it in another part of the head, that's all. Not anything different. What we're changing is whether we're doing it horizontally or vertically. So we're going to bring it to the center crown right at the vertex area. I'm going to use my previously cut hair as my guide. You see that guide right there. All right? So I'm going to bring that up. I'm taking a big section. My shears are pretty sharp. They can do it. There's my guide. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer because I am going to do it vertically in a minute. Oh, texture shear, sorry. And always look at your shears, by the way. I'm going to tell you a story about that a little bit that I did. And I always look at my shears now. There. Horizontally to the back. Watch it fall. See? It's just kind of cupping under real nice. Just cups under. You see where it's slightly rounded there. See? Cups under. All right. Now I'm going to take that same cut and I'm going to bring it vertically. And you'll see more movement. Remember, all of the hair is directed exactly to the same spot. Last one was horizontal. This one is vertical. What do you do with it? Look at that volume. Look at the movement. It pops out. You see that a little bit more. You see the choppiness. Now, what you can do now, let me show you when I bring the sides up, the back of it up, to meet. Now what ends up happening here, and I may have enough time to teach you one more way to do this cut. We'll just have to see. So instead of taking it vertically or horizontally, I'm taking my subsections. Remember, this is a crown. The subsections are going to fit. Your guide is going to be around the crown. So I'm going to take this, bring it straight up. You see where I am at the crown. Do you see where that's diagonal? It is not vertical. It is not horizontal. Now we're following the crown line, just as you followed the hairline. If you do it horizontally, you're going to end up with some corners. You're going to end up with things that you don't, like if somebody has wavy hair, corners tend to make that wave become more visible. So that's why you want to take it diagonally, cut only up to the second knuckle, and we're following the crown line. Now at the center, occipital right here, we're bringing it up to the crown line only. Now, is this horizontal? Yes, it will be horizontal because we're following that crown line. But watch how the hair falls. Do you see those layers? And it's following through with it. Now on the other side, diagonally. Because what? We're following the crown line. You can see that. And I can see my guide, it's right there. All right, so, and my mannequin keeps moving, so hopefully she won't be unhappy with her haircut. So you see that movement, but do you see where it's cupped under a bit? Now, the nape, I'm going to bring it up to show you the difference. I'm going to cut it vertically, and what you're going to see is a lot more movement there. Following still yet the crown line, going in that half circle on the bottom. You see my fingers move around. Now look at that choppiness happen. This is softer, this is popping out a little bit more. All right, and I'm going to bring this out. Again, traveling around the crown line for just that nape area, but you can see more movement at the nape, and this lays down nicely. This pops out. It's going to flip out. So I'm going to take it, area behind the ear. There you go, a slight angle. You can see the angle in my cut because I'm traveling around that crown line and bringing it only to that area. So this is extremely layered. And I had enough length to do that with. Make sure I've got this at the crown line. Now I've got a little bit of a corner there, see it? See the corner? I want you to see it. Short, short, long. When we get ready to do the uniform layer haircut, you're going to see that how we cut it and where we're at is going to be a big factor on it. So because we cut the bangs front to back, you see we've got nice little bangs right there. But remember, we brought this, cut it horizontally, so it kind of cleans that up a bit, but the front it didn't, because it didn't reach up there to get it. All right, this did, came up right to it, right to that apex area. So knowing these factors, knowing how to cut, remember there's your crown line. So be aware of those things. Again, on the terms, if you want to know where you're at, you've got to, that's the only way you're going to know where you're going. You've got to know where you're at on the head form. You've got to know, and again in our introduction we talk extensively about this. Where are you on the head form? You can't do this if you don't know this. Okay? There's the frontal fringe. Matches up to the parietal line. This is your hairline. Sides of the head, flat. Occipital, there's the vertex. Remember I was talking about that. That's the parietal line or the curve of the head. So there's many factors to this. The nape, we call it the happy face. Put your finger there, don't direct it, just press. And let it go back to the back of your head and it's going to end up in your knowledge bone. Natural movements, natural things. You guys, thank you very much. I have another little bit of a layered haircut. We're almost into the men's hair cutting. Then we're going to get into the uniform layer, which is all one length. Take care. God bless. See you again.